So we're going straight on now to Ossie Glover, who's the Chief Executive of an organisation called Fata He. Thank you, Ossie.
Right, we're there now. Okay, I'm going to try and move out of the way. Can I go without the microphone? Can everyone hear me at the back? Right. Can you all hear me at the back?
No, not online, sorry.
Oh, right, okay. All right, well I'm going to have to sit down then so everyone can see. Is that all right? Okay, some of you are going to be stars in the pictures today because everything we've done, I'm quite an avid photographer. That's the second part of my business, so some of you are going to recognise yourself in some of the pictures, and unfortunately a lot of you won't. But I'm here to talk about empowerment this morning, which I think is really, really important, and some of the work that we've been doing, particularly over the last 5 years, has been towards that. But my main struggle, and I think what's important for us to take away today, is equalities and how we're probably in the most frustrating part of any agenda that's on the table, because it's a constant battle, no matter what strand we're looking at. It is a constant battle with the statutory sector, with local government, and also with central government. And it's a battle that's going to continue, unfortunately. But then that's the type of work that we want to be involved in. It's frustrating, but it also has its rewards. And some of what we're going to see today from all the organisations represented here will give a clear picture of that. What Fata He have been actively involved in is part of our work as a BME infrastructure organisation, particularly in the far southwest, has been working through the Change Up programme, which came about, as many of you know, several years ago, and was going to change the whole vision and picture of the voluntary community sector nationally. Unfortunately, that doesn't always go the way that the government wants it to go. But it's been, again, very frustrating and very challenging. For Fata He, we work within 4 consortiums across the far southwest: the Cornwall Consortium, the Devon Consortium, the Plymouth Consortium, and the Tor Bay Consortium, working with many, many voluntary and community sector organisations across the whole of the far southwest. And within many of those organisations I've met and made some very good friends. So, as I said, it does have its rewards. I'm going to start off with Cornwall because I think that's a part that's sort of like left on its own. And although the Cornish have their own particular brand and their own particular vision on equality, as every Cornish person will say, we're an ethnic minority and want to be recognised for that. Well, I'm not to argue with a Cornish person on that. But some of the work we started off with the Cornwall Consortium, and one of the problems that I had was when I first started going to Cornwall about 10 years ago, was acting as a voice on behalf of black and minority ethnic people living in Cornwall. Now, the history of Cornwall and the black presence in Cornwall didn't happen in 1998. It actually happened in the 1700s, and you only have to look back at history to actually see that there had been a presence of black and minority ethnic people in the far southwest over many, many years. So rather than speaking at all the strategic meetings, one of the things I was pleased to have helped and form, particularly along, again with other organisations, in particular the Cornwall Rural Community Council, has been Unity Cornwall. Now, it's a name that they came up with themselves. They have their own chair, their own vice chair, so what we did was actually help them set themselves up. They now attend many of the strategic meetings, and they're also involved in all the decision making that happens locally for them, which I'm really, really pleased about. To bring us nearer home, part of that was then working with the Plymouth Consortium, and I'm really pleased to say that what came out of that was the wonderful work that had been done in Cornwall, because Plymouth quickly looked at what Cornwall were doing and said, well, we want to be Unity Plymouth. So it's actually fantastic. We now have Unity Cornwall and now Unity Plymouth. Again, completely representative. But the bonus was that we were actually given a small piece of money by the local strategic partnership through the Race Equality Working Group, which was sort of like managed by the Plymouth Social Inclusion Unit. So for us it was an opportunity to go out to all the black and minority ethnic groups across the city of Plymouth, speak to them, find out what their priorities were or what they felt wasn't right for them in actually finding a voice. And two of the biggest priorities that came out was a lack of understanding of what actually the city of Plymouth was trying to do, because all they saw from the local strategic partnership, we want to be the greatest waterfront, city waterfront in Europe and all of this and everything else. Oh, right, okay. And also it was about the democratic structures in the city. They could understand that everybody went out to vote and certain councillors were elected and MPs were elected, but what was the process? And it was all this misunderstanding and lack of understanding. Oh, there's our Treasury, Transport Minister, by the way, he'll come back in a minute. Sorry. And it was about who then makes decisions on behalf of the city. And from all that research that we actually did, it became quite apparent that there was a huge, great lack of understanding amongst young people and amongst black and minority ethnic people and other groups within the city about who actually manages the city and how can they actually be a part of that. So the piece of research is about our lives, our future. And what came out of that was a meeting with Plymouth City Council and a meeting with the Social Inclusion Unit. And it was absolutely fantastic because we were then able to work with the Social Inclusion Unit in providing space. And it wasn't a community centre they actually gave us, it was the actual council house that we now use 1 month of every Saturday. And along to those meetings, we invite local councillors and local MPs. And some of the pictures you can actually see some of the local councillors and some of the MPs actually volunteering and actually serving food, because if we want people to take off a Saturday afternoon to come along to a meeting, we want to feed them. And obviously we invite lots of other different representatives, and you'll see some of those. We invited the parliamentary outreach worker. I think FaithNet Southwest have attended and come and spoken at those events, and we've had singing and dancing, and it's just a great time for people just to get together and better understand some of the issues that are affecting them. But the beauty of it is that the local councillors and the MPs actually engaged with those people, and it was a fantastic opportunity to hear some of the issues that were coming out. One of the best sessions for me, I suppose, was when we started talking about some of the politics in the city. And it was from that we then had to invite, I think her name was Naomi Kent, who was then the parliamentary outreach worker. And it was fantastic because we were able to work through her and through our local MP, who arranged a visit for us to the Houses of Parliament. Now, we could have taken 10 coaches down if we'd had the opportunity, but unfortunately we were limited in the number that we could take on that visit, and it was a very short notice. I'm really, really pleased that with a number of organisations that we work with in this, in particular the Mount Wysey's Community Project, obviously Unity Plymouth, all took part. And it was a fantastic day, and the pictures will prove it, that we had a great day. And for some of the young people, it was the first time some of them had actually been outside of the city of Plymouth, and likewise some of the young people. And it was really strange when we were going through the Houses of Commons, you know the red seats that the Lords sit on and the green seats that, I think, it was really interesting to hear some of the young people as we were walking through saying, well, why can't I sit on the red seat? Oh, no, it's only Lords who are allowed to sit on it. But I pay taxes. So I've actually paid for that seat, so why can't I sit on it? And it became quite a time actually that you could see the security people inside the House of Commons thinking, my God, where have these come from? And I was thinking, oh my God, we're going to be evicted, and Chad was running around trying to calm everything down, so it was really, really good though to actually see that young people were actually starting to think through the process, and to actually see when they have the official opening of the Houses of Parliament, where the Queen came in and her seat, and it's all painted gold, and the questions, you know, they started to raise some really, really interesting things. That's our taxes, that's where our money's going, and yet we're not allowed to bring a camera in here, we're not allowed to photograph it, we're not allowed to do this and not that. And that's actually empowering young people to start thinking about the processes that happen. And then to go in what we see on the telly, and we see the Houses of Commons where the MPs actually sit, and the Labour and the Conservatives and the Lib Dem, and to actually see that side of it as well was actually empowering for them to actually do it. And then some of them remembered seeing Youth Parliament on the television, sat in exactly the same place. So for us it was a really, really good day, and everyone came away from it tired, because our coach broke down, I think, for about 2.5 hours, and we were due in London, I think, about 9:30, but we got there on time. But it didn't finish there, because then everybody decided they wanted to go and see Buckingham Palace. They wanted to go and see where the Queen lives. And it was great, actually, and as you'll see by the pictures, it was actually great to take everybody along to the house, to Buckingham Palace, and for them to actually see where the Queen lives and the rest of the royal family. And that was quite encouraging, and the flag was there that day, so we knew she was in, and there was a young group of kids, I think, at the gate, who were all shouting, "Where we want to see the Queen, we want to see the Queen." Half behaved themselves, which I must say, which is really, really good. But it was a great day, it was a sunny day, but that was just one of the things about empowering young people, and to now come back to Plymouth and hear from the experiences of young people, I think has been absolutely fantastic. But that couldn't have happened without the support and the funding through Creating Excellence, because as you well know, empowering communities has been big on the previous government's agenda, and it was through that funding, empowering communities, that we were able, through the Black South West Network, to get not a huge amount of funding, but some funding for work that we had already been doing, but was a continuation of the work that we have done. What else has been going on since then? Well, I'm really pleased to say that Fata He, although we don't actively take part in everything, because as we've just heard from Diane about ULOs and about letting users lead on things, I think one of the next big things for us was being involved in the Equality Southwest piece of work in empowering communities, which was to arrange a Plymouth multi-use forum. And I think, again, that was a fantastic opportunity, and it was absolutely brilliant to see young people lead a conference on their own, again, in the Plymouth City Council chambers, and to have the Lord Mayor there to open it, and to actually then engage with young people. And to hear young people talk about their experiences as young people, again, young people from across the city of Plymouth, I think, was fantastic. And again, I'm a great believer in letting action speak louder than words, and it's through the pictures that you'll see some of the success that came out of there. I go back to these equality issues because I think it is a really, really big one, and I think it really affects young people, it affects over 50s, it affects disabled people, it affects BME people, and many, many other people. And it's sad, and I get quite saddened in a way of the fact that there's all this wonderful work going on, and then we've got March the 31st, which is approaching very, very shortly. And again, I'm saddened in the fact is that we're going to reach the stage where we always get to a nice plateau where we engage and empower people, and then suddenly everything falls flat and we let people down again. And I hate having to let people down. So one of the things that we're quite keen with is to carry on the work that we have done with the organisations, and even if it's involving the Saturday group, the Unity Plymouth, the once a month meetings, we want to ensure that carries on. But again, that's down to the City Council. As yet we haven't heard beyond March whether the Council House is still going to be available, because that was a great meeting place. That's a great place for people to engage and actually understand not just the city history with all the silverware that's on display inside there, and that's been quite exciting sometimes to actually see people go up to the cabinets and actually try to understand what the maces mean and all the rest of it. So I think it's really, really encouraging, but it leads me back to this issue again of letting people down, and we don't really want to do that. We know that the councillors are supportive in Plymouth. We know that our local MPs are also supportive. We want to also try and make a few more trips available to the Houses of Parliament for other groups to go and actually see it as well, because I think it is really empowering. I think it's not just a good day out for everybody, but to see and hear the young people and the new people to actually experience that, I think is actually a fantastic opportunity. I just want to talk briefly about another piece of work that we have been doing over the last 3 years, and that's within the HM prison establishment. And again, a lot of people feel their own personal feelings against prisoners and ex-offenders. I said, well, that's an issue that they have to deal with, but it's a piece of work that I'm very, very passionate about. And the fact is that I'm very passionate about in the fact that prisons are still part of our communities, and many of the ex-offenders who come out of prison come back into our local communities, many unsupported, and there's this recycling then of ex-offenders, and it's sad for me to actually see prisoners being released and within 6 weeks actually going back through the cycle again. So some of the work that we're involved with is actually empowering prisoners to actually take more responsibility for their own lives. And one of the things that I've been quite keen on is helping through the governors and through the senior management teams within the prisons is setting up forums, not just for black and minority ethnic prisoners, but for other prisoners to join as well. And that's about them electing their own chair, their own vice chair, meeting and actually bringing up some of the issues that affect them within the prison. And it's got great support from the governors, from the race equality officers within, from the disability officers within the prison, who now all attend, and it's a fantastic opportunity for people, for prisoners, to actually have their voice heard without me sitting around the strategic team meeting table and actually saying that these are the issues for the prisoners. And that has been a long, hard piece of work. I'm really pleased that after December this year, we're now going to be taking that across the whole of the Southwest. So although we may be expanding, our community work will be going down, which is something that we don't want to actually lose, but we're going to have to. But that's the way that unfortunately we're all going to be affected after March the 31st. I'm just going to say before I finish that I don't think that any of this work could be possible without the support and without the encouragement of the staff involved in it. And I do know that the youth workers from Mount Wise and Community Youth Project, I know that many of the volunteers who turn up to help and support Unity Plymouth and Unity Cornwall, without their support and encouragement, it actually wouldn't happen. You can get your users to as far as you want to get them to, but at the end of the day, they've got to take responsibility for it. So without the staff there to help them through that process, but then be able to take a step back and actually allow them to do it for themselves, that to me is the most important thing. And what's really encouraging for me is to hear the stories coming out of Cornwall, coming out of Devon, coming out of Torbay with the Imagine Group in Torbay, and coming out of the prison is fantastic, because that makes me feel that what we're doing is worthwhile, because if it wasn't, I'd gladly turn around and I'd say bye to it all. But I think music and both the arts also play an important part in this, and whether you're a disabled person, whether you're a young person, whether you're over 50, I don't think it really matters, but the creative tools that we've got available to us as both workers or volunteers, I think that's what we've got to use, and that's what's there. And the more we take those tools and take them to young people, whether it be photography, whether it be videography, whether it be the arts through dance or through hip hop or street dance or whatever, to engage with young people and to engage with over 50s. I'm not saying that we should get over 50s doing breakdancing and hip hop and all the rest of it, but I think there's opportunities there, and I think that without the staff there to encourage it, without the organisations, our job is going to be really difficult after March the 31st. I say March the 31st, but there may be organisations here who are slightly luckier, and their funding may go beyond March. So thanks very much. I'll be happy to take questions, I think, when we have the question and answer thing. But feel free to contact me. You can visit us at www.fatahe.com, or you can go onto our Facebook page, which is Fata He Plymouth. Log on there, and all these pictures are available, and many, many more. But thanks to all those who have supported Fata He and continue to, and who have helped us along the way in empowering young people over 50s and PME people.
Thank you, Ossie.
Thank you, Ossie. And we'll have an opportunity to talk to him and to find out more a little bit later.